Speaking on behalf of the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric has stressed that Palestinians continue to face forced displacement while experiencing critical shortages of food and water. Dujarric added that humanitarian workers continue to risk their lives to provide assistance in the Gaza Strip. He also stated that their deaths brought the total number of humanitarian workers killed in the conflict to 341 and quoted the UN humanitarian coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territory.
An entity subject to Security Council sanctions, along with a broad range of armed opposition factions.
2 Palestinians have been killed and 1 injured after the Israeli occupation army bombed a vehicle north of Tubas. The Palestinian Red Crescent stated that the occupation forces are preventing ambulances from reaching the vehicle, while Palestinian media reported that the Israeli occupation forces have stormed the emergency department of Tubas governmental hospital. Displaced Palestinians from northern Gaza have moved to Gaza City, where they are now living in tents amidst piles of rubble and rubbish. Near Ma'rouf's tent, there are piles of trash, waste and rubble, with overcrowded areas filled with tents lined along a main street, where other displaced families are staying with barely any basic necessities for cooking and cleaning. The death toll in the Gaza Strip has risen to 44,502, with the number of injuries rising to over 105,450 since the start of the Israeli occupation aggression on October 7, 2023. At least 36 Palestinians were killed and 96 injured in Israeli attacks across Gaza in the past 24 hours, according to the enclave's health ministry. Moreover, at least 10,000 people are unaccounted for, presumed dead under the rubble of their homes throughout the Strip. U.S. Ambassador to the UN and December's UN Security Council President Linda Thomas-Greenfield has emphasized the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza. Thomas-Greenfield stated that the situation is dire and the U.S. will persist with relentless diplomacy to end the conflict and secure the release of the remaining detainees. She also emphasized that the U.S. will continue working tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people.
Around the clock to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people.
Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East since 2020, Philip Lazzarini, has stated that Gaza has become a pandemic of disabilities. In a post on X, he said that Gaza has the highest number of child amputees per capita in the world. He added that before the war, 1 in 5 families surveyed had at least one person with a disability. Nearly half of these families included a child with a disability, according to him. The World Food Programme's Deputy Executive Director, Carl Schau, has warned that the level of desperation in Gaza is rising as concerns over increasing hunger in the enclave grow. Schau stated that the World Food Programme was only able to deliver aid to approximately 300,000 to 400,000 Palestinians in November across the Gaza Strip due to ongoing Israeli occupation military offensives and the looting of convoys. The Deputy Director General of the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, has called for unrestricted and safe access to the Gaza Strip to deliver emergency aid and prevent the spread of famine. For Israel's war on Gaza, the enclave was largely self-sufficient in vegetables, eggs, fresh milk, poultry and fish, and produced much of its red meat, olive oil and fruit, according to FAO. However, more than a year later, Gaza's agricultural food systems have collapsed, with Israeli forces disseminating local food production across the entire enclave. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders has stated that the government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is committing war crimes and ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip. In a post on his X account, Sanders stressed that Netanyahu's government is committing war crimes and ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip. Describing the war crimes committed by Israel in Gaza, he said that terrorism cannot be fought by starving Palestinians and killing tens of thousands of civilians. Displaced Palestinians in Gaza are struggling to secure enough bread for their families due to high flour prices and a UN agency's decision to halt aid shipments through Gaza's main crossing following looting. Displaced people in Deir el-Balah face significant food insecurity in November due to a flour shortage and the lack of food. Last month, bakeries in the area shuttered for several days because they did not receive flour deliveries, pushing thousands to the brink of starvation as families heavily rely on makeshift charitable kitchens and bakeries to survive. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and French President Emmanuel Macron have agreed to make every effort to contribute to de-escalation in the Middle East. The leaders emphasized their priority to establish an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, secure the release of all the detainees, and deliver humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians. They also pledged to continue diplomatic efforts for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah and called for a presidential election in Lebanon to ensure stability.